Makes a huge difference if you'll do me a favor by subscribing and liking the podcast wherever you listen. It goes a long way. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy. In this conversation on the wisdom of life, I sit down with Dr. Michael Gillespie, an associate professor of psychology at the University of South Florida. He directs the Human Applied Cognition and Decision Making Lab on the Tampa campus. His research interests include decision making at work, critical thinking, values, organizational culture, psychological measures, and job attitudes. He teaches industrial organizational psychology, research methods, test and measurement, and statistics. And he is the co author of a book entitled Distancing, which came out August 12th, 2025. Distancing: How Great Leaders Reframe to Make Better Decisions, with David Marquet, who's a best selling author and former submarine captain for the U.S. Navy. And they introduce a powerful solution called distancing. This simple but underused power lets us see outside ourselves to see with clarity and decide with wisdom through three practices: be someone else, be somewhere else, and be sometime else. Adopting a different perspective so we can view our situation from afar or become our wiser future self. Each unlocks instant insight and improves our judgment. And we have a conversation about Michael's work and how he and David met and came together on this project, Distancing the book, as well as his work in organizational psychology. I hope you enjoy. Mike, welcome to the Wisdom of Life.
Thanks. Good to be here. Good to be here. Excited to learn about the wisdom of life. I think that's why we're here, right? You're going to tell me all about it.
No, no, no. You're gonna teach us.
Okay. All right. All right. See what I can do then.
Yeah,
Good.
exactly. No pressure, right? At
Right. Right.
morning. With your new book, Distancing, how did you and Dave? I was curious how did you and David get connected? Like, how did you come to work on this project together?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a little bit of a fun story with that. I was doing some research on organizational culture and performance based on some work that I had done for this brilliant guy, Dan Dennison, for a consulting firm that I worked at for a while. And we published, along with some other people, Tony Boyce and others, we published an article that got a lot of attention. And the Wall Street Journal picked it up and they did a feature on my research. And that article landed on David's doorstep. And then he gave me a call because he's like, hey, this guy's just up the road from me. So he gave me a call and he's like, hey, you want to get together? We might have some common interests. Let's look into this. And so we met up for lunch and we hit it off. And it's a funny thing that the fun part of this story is, so he's all about giving control to the employees. He took the worst performing sub in the fleet and turned it into the best performing sub in the fleet. This is David Marquet in his book Turn the Ship Around. And so he's all about, you have to learn to give other people control. And so he's trying to teach his executives how to do this. He's like, so here's a homework assignment. Here's what you can do: go out to lunch, go out to dinner, and just have the server just pick what they want to give you for dinner or for lunch. Give them the control. They have a lot of good information. Just let them do it. And so we show up to lunch, and the server comes and asks what we want. And I'm going through this kind of thing personally a little bit, just kind of in my own way. And I'm like, well, what's good? What do you recommend? Just bring me what you think's good here. And so it was really funny because he was literally working on this as a tool. And I showed up to lunch and did that exact tool. And then we just hit it off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's awesome. What was that experience like for you to do that in the moment there?
Well, so I had no idea this was something that he was working on. It was just kind of something that I like taking advantage of other people's expertise. Hey, if you know this restaurant, if you've been here for a few years, you know what's good. I don't know what's good. I can maybe tell you a little bit about what I like or don't like, but then you're really the expert. And so I was just really enjoying seeing what other people would come up with. So I mean, I had some dietary constraints, but I really I enjoyed it. It worked out really well. I think I ended up with some sort of spaghetti or ravioli. I don't even remember, but it was really good.
Yeah. And where does that come from for you? You think, like, have you always, since you were a child, a kid, elementary school, middle school, that sort of thing, like, taken advantage of other people's expertise, like look to them and go, okay, like, oh, I can draw from this person, I could draw from that person, or
No, because I knew everything. So so this was a challenge for me, right? And in the same way I think that it was for David's clients, so yeah, this was something that I was working on, like to intellectually humble myself and just be like, well, okay, well, you must have some expertise in this area, so what can I learn from you?
and when do you feel like that shift started to occur for you? Was it intentional?
Well, I guess I had not thought about that question. You're asking me things I haven't thought of in years. But yeah, right. I think, so going through grad school, of course I was supposed to learn, but it was also very much, I felt this performance expectation. Like I had to know the answers. I had to perform. I had to be an expert on something. And then, trying to get tenure, I had to be the expert, and so I think once that pressure started to release a bit, I started to see, hey, I really, it's not good for me to go around feeling like I have to know everything. That's a fixed mindset. It's not a growth mindset. I need to be more open. What can I learn from other people? And so it was somewhat of a deliberate shift. And I was also responsible for directing this critical thinking program across the university. And so intellectual curiosity, intellectual humility, these were virtues that I was espousing. And so it was a great opportunity for me to start trying to make this shift mentally.
Did you feel like, what was that like for you? Did you feel like pressure coming off your shoulders, going at, like, I have to be this expert to, like, okay, let's explore this, and ooh, what can this person add, and what does that person bring to the discussion, or what was that like for you?
And, for those who might be only listening, like I really like the demonstration you did where you actually like showed the pressure on your shoulders and how that can release. And yeah, it's very much how it feels, and of course that doesn't exonerate us from doing hard work, but we don't have to be the experts in everything. We can just be curious. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've noticed it even throughout this podcast with certain people I interviewed, even like one recently I had on Brad Beeler, who's a retired Secret Service agent and done all these polygraphs and stuff. And I noticed, like, in my body, when he was talking about certain things, I felt like, oh, I should know what I'm going to ask him next. And like, and I noticed I was like, there's so much tension versus like
Right.
just seeing where it went and not knowing. And I'm sure there's plenty of people listening that are like have no clue, so it's like, why not just be, the person like asking and letting him be the expert, so to speak.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love it because if you watch some of the most brilliant people, they're not there to try to impress you with how much they know. I mean, some of them are, and it's kind of annoying. But a lot of them, they just have a great presence and they're just curious and they ask you questions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They draw you in, or they draw you out to that, so you can pull on that thread.
Right, right, right,
Yeah, yeah. So like you talked about doing some of the, that article on
right.
how you and David met, right? What was the title of that article, or
Oh,
the
goodness.
or the context of that article? Do you remember?
Well, the core issue of that article was that culture drives performance, not the other way around. Which like organizational culture. So we kind of know this implicitly, but it had not been scientifically tested, and it was also plausible that a well-performing company that's making good money or meeting objectives is going to then feed into a positive culture. Which we didn't find much evidence of that. We really found that the culture is what drives it. Which that's kind of it's a nice take home message. It's actionable. I mean, culture change is hard work, but it's that's what we want to focus on, and then the outcomes will follow.
And how do you define culture?
Oh, goodness, so that's been a minute. So organizational culture is kind of like the shared way of doing things around here. So it's the feel of the place. It's the set of principles and values that are reinforced throughout. It's managing and mastering this tension of internal integration with external adaptation. And how do you manage that? So it's the way things are done around here. So it's the lessons that we learn as we go through. And so it can be useful for somebody to come in and try to foster better ways of learning and doing? And are we too navel gazing as an organization? Are we too just adapting to whatever is trending here or there as an organization? Because then you lose, your consistency and your ability to do things efficiently. And so it's managing these competing tensions.
Yeah. And also, like you talked about in your lunch with David, like the his idea of relinquishing control, right?
Right, right,
From the leader to the employees.
right. Yes, yes. And that. Oh, go ahead.
No, no, please
All
go
right.
ahead.
So and that's what gave rise to the book that we just wrote. So his big thing was, we want to relinquish control. Um we want to give authority to the people who have the information. They're there on the ground, on the front lines doing it. Give them the control, give them the authority, which by the way is just good psychology also, and good management. And so, but if you're going to give them the control, if you're going to give them decision-making authority, how do you help them make better decisions? And so that's what gave rise to this book that we just launched called Distancing. And it's also a response to my efforts I was director of a critical thinking program for about 4 or 5 years, teaching a structured, disciplined intellectual thought process, which takes a lot of time. It has a place, great, but how do we help people more quickly gain perspective to make good decisions? And so those forces came together to create this book that we just launched.
And how do we? What is the process like, or how do we limit ourselves in like preventing ourselves from making good or better or wiser decisions?
Oh
Like,
goodness.
how do we
Yeah.
get in our own way?
Right. And that's a great question. And so the non-psychologist approved answer, I'm a
Right.
psychologist, right? The non-psychologist approved answer is our ego gets in the way. That's something that everybody can relate to. And the reason it's not psychologist approved is because I'm not even sure that's a thing. We debate and it's been mislabeled and it's just kind of a whole mess. But when you say that, people know what you're talking about. And so it's like our sense of self, our accumulated past experiences, our fears, our hopes, our concerns, our sense that we are the center of the universe, all of these things just get in the way of making good decisions.
And so, does that sense like also prevent, say, the person in charge from relinquishing control, going like,
Yes.
"Mm, I don't
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, right, right. Because we want to be in charge. We want to be in control. We don't want to give that away. It's hard. We want it to be all about us. But if it's all about us, then everything has to go through us and everything depends on us. And if you're trying to scale something, you can't do it all. And so it's not good for the people that you're working with. And it's not good for the company long term. And it's not good for you long.
Right, right. It's not. It's not. It sounds like it's not sustainable.
Right, right. It's not scalable. It's not sustainable. It's a maladaptive mindset.
Yeah. And there's always going to be a bottleneck in that approach.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. And yet at the same time, right, like we want it's like you were talking about earlier, competing interests. It's like, well, if you've worked hard to get into that position, you want to feel like you have the decision making power.
Right. And that's why, so one of the things that we talk about is this CEO peak effectiveness curve. And so CEOs will get into power based on doing what they've been doing. And so that must be the right way of doing it. And so it works for a while, but then they stop getting new information. They stop adapting and the world changes and they need more and better and different information, but they're getting less varied information that's just confirming, what they think. And so that we see this peak tenure of about 15 years and then the performance starts to decline. And so, but it's hard to really relinquish control at that point.
Yeah, because you're in so far.
Right, right.
You like feel like you're committed, so you just gotta keep going.
That's right. Yep, that's right. Yeah. And you have this misguided sense that everybody's depending on you when you're better off, just giving them the control so they don't have to depend on you.
Right, right. So let's jump into the book. You guys talk about write about like psychological distancing,
Right.
right?
Right.
From three perspectives, but first I want to like pull back and go like, okay, what is it and how do we do it? or why do we need it, right?
Yeah. So if there's I'm going to start with the take home point and then we can unpack it from there. So if there's one thing that I, would encourage people to take from this conversation, it's that we can do this thing called psychological distancing where we get out of our own head. And so we can become somebody else, or we can actually mentally relocate ourselves, pretend we're somewhere else, and we can become a future version of ourselves. And so we can transport our mind in space and time in a way, and that gets us out of our own head. And just a simple exercise that people can try. I don't Chad, I don't know if you journal. Some of the listeners might journal. You do? Yeah, I do also. What someone can do to try is just, if you look at your journal, you probably see like I, me, my, in various places throughout is the first person approach. We can try a third person approach. Mike is having trouble figuring out what to do next. He, blah, blah, blah. This happened to him, blah, blah, blah. It takes us out of this first person shooter mentality and gets us into the third person perspective. And it's a simple manipulation. It gets us out of our own head. And so even through that simple exercise, we can see things more clearly.
How does that work? How can we see things more clearly? What? Yeah, like why
Right.
does?
So it's this distinction between being self-immersed and self-distanced. And so when we're self-immersed, it's all about things are happening to me. I'm experiencing it now. It's all about me, me, myself, and I, me here now. When we self-distance, we get out of that. And so I can take a minute just now and think. So right now, you and I are talking. I'm seeing it through my own eyes, obviously, and I'm in this first person position. But if I can just take a moment and imagine, okay, I'm just some dude in his home office. I can zoom out mentally. Okay, there's this subdivision I'm in. Okay, then there's the state of Florida. Okay, then there's the US. And all of a sudden it makes it just seem like I feel the stress and anxiety, which is not great because it's not a whole lot because this is fun. But I feel even that just kind of melting off, as I kind of mentally remove myself.
And does it create different pathways for solutions to bubble up or create like different lanes that one could take versus going, okay, I only can do this one thing, or I'm locked into this lane.
It sure does. It's just like if you have a friend or a neighbor or somebody who has some issue that they're struggling with and they're telling you about it, and you just want to scream because the answer is so obvious to you, like, well, just do this, stupid, as an outside observer, right? You know, it's it's exactly like that. And so we just see things more objectively as though it's happening to somebody else. And so the clarity with which we can see things in somebody else's experience, we can now bring that same clarity to our own experience. But there's an interesting added part to it also that we didn't really get a chance to unpack that much in the book. I think we touched on it just a little bit, but for my own situation, I actually have the most information anybody could possibly have because it's my situation. I'm dealing with it. I've thought about it this way and that. I'm surrounded by all of it. I have all of the context. I'm just in my own way. So if I can use all of that information, but not be tied up in being me, now all of a sudden I have a dramatically better perspective and I have great information.
Yeah, you're not tied down by that emotional attachment.
That's right. That's right.
And how powerful is that?
It's amazingly powerful, and it can lead, I'm not even kidding, it can lead to snap insights. You can just see things differently just in a moment, and it doesn't take much cognitive effort. So like, Moore and Grove with Intel, when they were stuck on producing memory chips, memory chips are us, as there was their identity. And then they realized, what, actually, if our replacements came in, they asked, what would our replacements do? Our replacements would get us out of memory chips. And they saw it just like that in that snap instant, and they made the decision, and now we have Intel Inside. It's in my computer right now. Not the memory chip, but the processor.
Yeah, versus Kodak.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
That classic story where they're like, no, no, no. Yeah, we're not. Yeah, that's not our thing, or that's not going anywhere.
Right, from Blockbuster. Yeah.
Blockbuster, exactly.
Lots of great failure examples.
Right, right. There always are. I remember when that. Yeah, used to go to Blockbuster to get movies on the weekend.
Right? Yep.
How can we start, the general person, how can we start practicing that on a consistent basis. You talk about consistency with organizations, like from an individual or from also an organizational perspective. How can we make it practice?
Right. So I'm not trying to just shamelessly plug the book, I
Yeah,
promise, but
that's
we
great.
have all kinds of examples, like tools that you can use all throughout it. And so, for example, like I challenge myself to journal in the third person periodically, even though it feels sometimes unnatural and a little bit weird, because that way, when I actually need to use this tool, I'm not learning it for the first time. I've already practiced it. The exercise I just talked about spatial distancing, about zooming out of my own head, we can practice that. Yeah, if you're feeling a little lazy, you could just go to Google Earth or Maps and just like keep zooming out, keep zooming out, keep zooming out. And it's not long before you can feel your own insignificance. There's apps that you can use to like, what would I look like 20 years from now? And so you can, yeah, you can age yourself and be like, oh, that dude's a lot older. Okay, well, what does, if I'm him, then what decision would I make in my life now? And so we can start practicing these things when we don't need them, because when we need them, it's hard, honestly, because we're already so immersed, we're already so wrapped up. And I'll tell you, the when I am about to make the worst decisions, it's the moments where I'm like, you know what, I can't even be bothered to use my own tool right now. And then bam, I mean, that's the best way to just surely screw something up is when I can't even be bothered to slow down and use my own simple tools that can help me make a better decision.
Yeah, yeah. That makes me think of Danny Kahneman, who,
Yeah.
I study this and like I've been studying this for my whole life, but even I get caught up in, yeah, because I,
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, so I read Fast and Slow, and I get to the end and the conclusion, and he's like, you know what? For all my years of studying these biases, I'm not sure I'm that much better at mitigating them. And I'm like, holy cow, dude! Like, it really. And then so he's like, so the thing I've learned to do is try to recognize the situations where they're most likely to come out. And so that's something that we can do also, is we can be on guard for the situations where we're most likely to make wrong decisions, make biased decisions, allow our own biases to take over. We can be aware of those situations and then have a plan for how to mitigate those ahead of time.
yeah, so like, is that known as pre-mortem?
Sure. Yeah.
Like planning for like, okay, this thing trips me up. So what are some possibilities? What are some ways I can navigate that? Because I know from past experience that this this sort of thing tends to trip me up.
Right. Right. Yes. And I like that. And I have, some personal examples I can think of just real quick right offhand is if I'm going out to eat and I don't have a pre-decision to get like the vegetables or the slaw or the edamame instead of the French fries, when they ask, would you like fries with that? I'm saying yes,
Yeah.
even though I know that's not what I actually really should be getting. And so that's a situation where I'm going to screw it up if I don't have a plan ahead of time. Same with like car shopping and like making the decision at the dealership, or allowing myself to be pressured into something at work when the person's right there in front of me, instead of giving some thought ahead of time into like what's really important, what are my priorities, this kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that way you don't get ice cream on the French fries.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's fascinating because my mentor taught at Princeton. He had this wild hair, and he used to say, "Imagination is more important than knowledge,"
Interesting.
and that's Einstein, right?
Yeah.
And so, what you're talking about is like using our, to me, it's like using our imagination to come up with other ideas to access our knowledge
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great way to put it.
rather than being like stuck in our knowledge box and not being able to expand it.
Yes. Yes, that's right. Yeah. It's a much better, and as you say this, it really resonates with me, because when I'm really focused on something, really grinding on maybe the wrong thing, but I'm just bent on it, I'll spend a lot of time getting a little bit more incremental knowledge about this decision, but I'm going down the wrong path. And so if I had instead just take a moment to step outside of that and see, then instead of just gathering more information to confirm what I already want to do, I could take a fresh perspective and see what really would be better for me.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that comes up for me when you're saying that is back when I was a kid and I'd be stuck on, say, like math or some problem in schoolwork, and my teacher or my mom or somebody would say, like, go take a break, like, go outside and shoot hoops, or go, take a break and then come back to it. And I'd be like, no, I gotta, like, figure this out. I
Right,
gotta
right.
force this.
That's exactly it. Yes, yes. But if you allow yourself that mental release and then come back, sometimes you see it with fresh eyes, and all of a sudden it's clear to you.
Yes, yes. Because I feel like it's so easy for us as humans to be like stuck in the maze. You don't know to go, what direction to go, but you're just like so determined and so committed that you will just keep hitting the wall.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep. There's another great book by Joshua Waitzkin. He was the chess champion. He was Bobby Fischer in the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer is based on him, and he also turned Tai Chi a martial arts champion, which I find just so fascinating. He's kind of my hero in that regard. But anyhow, he talks about being like just really stuck in one frame of mind playing a game of chess and not being able to release. And then when he learned to get out of that frame of mind and go take a sprint up and down the hall and come back, or go in the bathroom, splash water in his face and come back, just get out of that way of thinking and then approach the problem fresh, he would see new insights in how to actually solve the problem.
Yes, without a doubt, love. And are you talking about The Art of Learning?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yes, yes, exactly. I thought I said the title in my mind. I said the title, but maybe not. Yes, exactly. That's it. Yep, yep.
Yeah, I came across Josh through the Tim Ferriss podcast,
Oh, neat.
and where he interviewed Josh because they're buddies. And I was like, and it was like, I want to say like one of Tim's first 10 podcasts, or, the beginning. And I was just like, my goodness, this guy is my new mentor.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, yeah,
It's such a different way than you normally hear about approaching life and problem solving, and yeah, just
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
so cool. Yeah, I love that. Like, I remember he was talking on the podcast. I think he was talking with. This came about. He was talking with an Olympic skier, and he was. I don't know if you've heard this. Like, where at the end of the ski run, he was asking like, okay, when is your best, like, the best quality of your ski run, and
Mm-hmm.
then like what happens at the end of the ski run, and he said like what happens is you're tired, and so your form goes off, and
Mm-hmm.
then immediately you go and you get on the chairlift and you ride up, and your body is integrating that last part,
Yeah.
which was the worst form out of the run,
Right.
before you start your next run. And so he was talking about it like in so many things that we tend to, for example, like the work world, it's like a set time versus a set quality.
Right.
So like, for example, you work till 5 or something,
Right.
9 to 5 or 8 to 5, right? And he was like, the challenge of that is like, do you end up integrating like the bad quality because you're tired at the end into this pattern, 5 days a week leading to the next day,
Right.
versus stopping a little bit early, like say some authors do, where they've like, I think it was Hemingway who'd like stop in the middle of a sentence,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so it was
That way,
like,
you have that momentum to pick back up again also.
yes, yes. And we are obsessed. He was talking about in like Western culture, like we are obsessed with quantity over quality.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What are your thoughts like on that? My riff there.
I love it all. I mean, yeah, these are things I think about a lot as well. I have not found as much writing on this as I would like to. It doesn't mean it's not there, but I haven't found it. But I really love the idea of stopping your work so that in a way that you can pick it up easily the next day. It's like that Hemingway thing. And then also, I think it's a lot more about capturing our peak energy as opposed to just trying to fit it into the clock. I know personally, if I'm amped, ready to go, sit down and work, I'm doing way better than if I'm just like making myself sit there for another, 10, 15 minutes or whatever. But then on the same token, sometimes that lull, that push through is what we actually need in order to get that next creative idea and actually get going again. So it's kind of a, I don't know, it's a tough nut to crack, I guess.
Yeah. And how do you know the difference? How do you differentiate between I need to push through or I need to separate and come on back?
Right. I think if when we start just really perseverating on something and it's not and we're not getting traction, it's time to step out and come back and take a fresh perspective. What it does not mean is that we only work when we feel like it. We've seen. I don't know about you, but I've seen enough out there on motivation, emotion. These things can be kind of fickle one day to the next. But the discipline over time, the discipline and the consistency is going to produce results. And so it's kind of doing that and recognizing when our efforts are not being fruitful and we need to take a step out and
Yeah, so that balance of going, okay, it's time to grind, and okay, I'm not getting anywhere right now, so need to pivot.
right. And then to ground this discussion a little bit more in my area of expertise, I suppose, I would say that we can recognize our tells when we're about to get derailed, when our thinking is or our emotions are about to get derailed and we're about to make a bad decision or we're about to screw something up. And so we interviewed this entrepreneur, Shane Mack, a brilliant guy. And he's put it this way: is like when everything is right now, our anxiety is rising too high, our emotions are taking over, we're about to make a bad decision, so you need to take a step back and pause. And so the power of being able to call a pause and then have a plan for what we do in that space after we call the pause. And so for me, it's recognizing when I feel a certain level of anxiety. It's recognizing when I feel like if I don't send this, I have to send this right now, when really it doesn't matter if I wait 15 minutes or a day. Those are the types of situations where we're going to get ourselves in trouble. And so we need to be able to disengage. And then the plays that we have in the book would be to use some form of self-distance, some sort of psychological distancing, either become somebody else, go somewhere else mentally, or be some time else. And so these are things that can get us out of our own heads so that we can see the situation more clearly. And then maybe the decision is to not act right now, or maybe we have new insights into how we can act right now.
Yeah, because in sport, like the rules dictate, okay, for example, in basketball or something, you have only this many timeouts.
Right.
But in life, there's a lot more leniency in that. There's a lot more flexibility in that.
There is. There is. And in life, we really can take it to pause or time out most times. We have an example in the book of Anne Hathaway when she is preparing to sing. I have, what is it? I dream a dream, or I have a dream. I forget the exact song title. Pop culture is not my forte, but she had this major piece, this award-winning piece that she was about to deliver, and she had to call a timeout, but she laid the groundwork ahead of time by saying, "Hey, I'm feeling nervous about this." So then when the time came, she's like, "You know what? I need a break and I need to get a hold of yourself." And then she came back in and then she nailed it. But she laid the groundwork to be able to call that pause. But we can also do it in sport. So we have an example. Jeremy Snape's a cricket coach, and he has an example of, so if you're going to go up to bat at cricket beforehand, have the perspective of being on the balcony and seeing yourself with that calm clarity, as opposed to just being at bat with where you're imagining all the ramifications of striking out or whatever, imagining the headlines. No, no, no. Get out of your head and then just go hit the ball. And so he has this whole approach to that.
Yeah, yeah. I remember years ago, I was teaching tennis lessons at a club, and I was talking with this woman, recreational player, and she would say, like, during the point, I'm fine, but before I step up to serve, I totally get in my own way, get in my own head.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because there's this time to think. and it's like
Right.
not good for me, right? And
Right.
I said to her, it just came like it was just in conversation. I remember this. I was like, "Well, when are you the most relaxed?" And she was like, "Totally on vacation when I'm at the beach."
Yeah.
Like, I just like all that stuff floats away. And I said to her, I was like, "Well, what if before each time you stepped up to serve, you just close your eyes and you just imagined you were on vacation at the beach?"
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And she went and did that, and then she came back, like she played her league match and came back, and she's like, "I've never surfed like that in my life." She was like
Yeah.
blown away. And I was too. I was like, "Whoa, that's crazy how that worked." So
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
yeah. So can you, with the spatial distancing or the time thing, you talk about going into the future. Does it work as well going into the past?
So it can give us good perspective. We argue that it's probably more useful to become your future self because that's the direction that we're headed. And so if we want to, if I'm trying to make a financial decision, is probably the most obvious example, and I'm actually looking at something like this relevant right now. My car's like 15 years old and time to replace. So I'm like, what would my 5 or 10 year future self want me to do right now? And so that helps me anchor that decision. Now, if that's hard for people to do, a nice way to kind of loosen it up is to think about yourself now versus 5 years ago. How much have you grown? How much has your life changed? We get used to thinking that this is all there is right now. So, but if you see how much things have changed, like from now to 5 years ago, then it's a lot easier to imagine, oh, well, I really will be this other person, 5 years from now. And what's ever happening to me then will matter. And so then what does now, how can I become that person to reflect on what I should be doing now? So you asked, is it as useful to imagine your past self? It's a useful mental exercise to kind of loosen up this idea of mental time travel so that you can see how you can become a different person. But then I would argue it's more useful to become the future version of yourself to guide decisions that you're going to make today.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, background a lot is in tennis, and it reminds me of this story from this book, The Master, with Roger Federer and Tony Godsick, his agent. They were meeting, and early on, I think, in their relationship. So he's like late teens, just starting his career. And Tony says to him, like, if you're willing to do this, you're willing to walk this route, like you're going to be way more successful after your playing career than just your tennis career, because what we're going to do is we're going to build a business and opportunities that you can carry forward for the next 40, 60 years instead of
Right.
just for the 10, 15 years you're playing, right?
Yes.
And I thought when I read that, I was like, wow, like how beautiful is that? Because that, to me, that makes me think of what you're talking about. It's like taking a 18, 19-year-old guy and getting him to think, okay, like what would you love to be doing at 40 or 60 is like
Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
blowing, right?
Right. Exactly. Who's that guy? I'm never going to be that guy.
Exactly. They're just
Right.
like, I want to win this tournament right here. I just want to go,
Right.
party or whatever, right? And it's like,
Right.
to Roger's credit and people around him and Tony, like getting him to think like that, we're starting to see that a little bit now that Roger's done with his tennis career, that next phase of like all these cool things, opportunities opening up because he set it up,
Right. Yeah.
primed the pump.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That future perspective, very, very useful.
Do you feel like we could teach younger people, like kids, this, or even college age, more so than we do, like high schoolers, or what's like the
Oh,
show, or what do you think?
100%. And so a lot of the research in the book is from Ethan Kross. And he talks about in his book, Chatter, how he teaches a course like this at the university. After it isn't. I don't know if the offering the course was directly informed by his research, but he does provide this training in his course, and they say it's the most amazing and important thing for them. And so, absolutely, he's an example of where this is working to teach college students. I'll say it with. I use this with my own students as well. And so I just use like the Ilias diary method, the third person journaling that we've talked about. And they've talked about how it helps them have both more compassion and accountability for themselves. They can see things more clearly. It helps them get over pain and helps them move on with their life. The interesting thing for me is when I try the temporal distancing one, I have always been trying to use 10 years, but to tell college students to become their 10-year future self, it's like it's too far. It's like they can't relate to that person, or at least my students could not, for the by and large. So I'm like, okay, fine, your 2-year future self, because that's more relatable to them, but it still gets them out of that immediate myopic thinking.
Yes, yeah, yeah, because you can fluctuate. You can change the dial, right? Like it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a set time. You can be like, okay, 3 months down the road, or
Right.
6 months down the road, or this or that. Like, yeah, I love that. Like, even talking when you talk about that, to first talking in the third person, changing from I, me, we, or yeah, that sort of thing, to like Chad, this, I immediately just feel lighter.
Yes.
I feel that in my
Yes.
body.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
It's wild, like how like that switch.
Right. It really is. It really is a switch. Yeah. And it doesn't take much effort.
Yeah.
It takes a little, but not a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like you were talking earlier where, like, talking to a friend or talking to somebody where you're like, oh, I totally see it so clearly what
Right.
you should do, right? But
Yeah.
they're so stuck, it's like they almost can't see anything.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And this is that shift of like pulling on that screen door, and it's like, okay, yeah, there's possibilities.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Wow. And so, uh, talk to me. You talked about temporal distancing. What is distancing?
Right. So let me kind of put all of this together. So we have
Thanks.
the broad umbrella is psychological distancing. And so that's why the book is distancing. Then within psychological distancing, we have self distancing, spatial distancing, and temporal distancing. I don't think I've said it that clearly for the audience so far. And so the self distancing is kind of like that third person perspective. The spatial distancing is, mentally transporting to vacation on the beach or to the balcony, watching yourself, or zooming out. And then the temporal distancing is the time aspect. And so becoming our future self. And so these are the three broad classes of tools that we can deploy.
Okay. Okay. And how do you think? How do you think? The subtitle, right, is how great leaders reframe to make better decisions.
Right.
I'm curious, like, how do you think organizationally this can become part of the culture? So it's not only the quote unquote like great leaders doing this, but it's the entire organization doing it. You go to
Right.
University of South Florida, it's like, okay, it's University of South Florida doing this.
Right. Absolutely. And so the great leaders part of the subtitle is a bit aspirational. Like, we all want to be great leaders in some way. Maybe some people are like, yeah, no, that's not for me, not at all. Okay, fine. These principles still could become relevant, still could be relevant, right? So yes, it's relevant to everybody. And yes, we want everybody across the organization being able to use these tools. And so the simplest thing, the point where I would start, is just to normalize the ability of people to call a pause so that they don't have to think that they're being weird or afraid or weak or anything. Like, this is normal. Like, hey, I'm gonna call a timeout. I'm gonna call a pause because I need to bring a better version of my thought process to this problem, which is important to everybody. Everybody wants that. And so the first thing I think I would do is normalize calling a pause, calling a timeout. And then I would also just give people practice with the different techniques, because then it can help everybody make better decisions. If I'm at the front counter at the Ritz and I have an irate customer, I don't want to be defending my own ego at that counter. I want to be doing what's in the best interest of the hotel or for that customer. And I need to remove myself from that. If I'm stuck on a software problem, I need to not be worried about the code I've already written and my investment in that. I need to be able to think, okay, what's the best solution for this problem? Yeah. We want to be able to get out of our own.
Yeah, yeah. And I got to think that that can be transformative for communities and organizations, like on a collective scale.
Right, right. So this is one of the reasons why I was so excited about this book. So when I was running the critical thinking program, it was a great program. We were teaching everybody how to be better critical thinkers, how to disengage from system one, engage system two, that careful, deliberate thought process, apply a structured thought process to solve a problem. Lots of great resources. Is it useful? 100% yes. Is it always feasible? No. That's the challenge. And so I was doing workshops for the community where we would have entrepreneurs, principals, other small business owners, retirees, and people are saying, okay, you have an approach to solving a problem that's a useful approach to solving a problem, but can I actually apply this to every decision that I have to make? And if I'm honest, the answer is no. No. Can I apply critical thinking, a full blown critical thinking process to every decision I have to make? No. There's not enough time in the day. I'm going to drive myself crazy. I've done that. I've driven myself crazy. And so what do we do in those situations where we don't have the time or resources to deploy a full structured thought process to it? And all we really need to do is get our biases and our emotions out of it. And how do we recognize when that's irrelevant? Like, how do we recognize the best way to even try to solve a problem? The first thing we need to do is just get out of our own way, get out of our own head, get our ego out of the way, so to speak. So we can use psychological distancing very easily with any decision. And then sometimes it might reveal, okay, this is really going to require a careful analysis. So I'm going to work on this, or I'm going to ask so and so to work on that. This, I just needed to make a quick decision, but I needed to make sure that I wasn't bringing these subconscious biases into play, or I wasn't just doing it because this is what I had already, said I was going to do. And I don't want to look silly by changing my mind, even though I know it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I love that. Like, that's cool that, you were teaching this and you had a varied audience
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about. And because that commonality of the audience is like life presents us sometimes where we feel that time pressure,
Right.
where we're like, okay, I got to make a decision. I don't have this, I can't just go and separate. And so we all feel that at times.
Right.
This is a beautiful way to like apply it in real time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's the great value.
When did psychological distancing enter the literature? Like when did that?
Hmm. So it's tightly connected to this other theory, construal level theory, which I see as construal level theory, CLT, 2007, 2009, Trope and Lieberman. There's a few articles there. Psychological distancing, I feel like I should have a concrete answer to this, but I know like 2014 and prior, we had good research on psychological distancing by, Ethan Cross and colleagues. But it hasn't really hit mainstream so much until recently in terms of like the public conversation and being able to apply this to organizations. And so that's what I think is really cool, because, David and I set out to tackle this problem. How do we help people make better decisions? How do we help people shed their biases? Bias training doesn't work very well. Well, look, there's this theory of psychological distancing that helps people get out of their own head, naturally shed a lot of these biases, make better decisions. Oh, by the way, it also mitigates anxiety. Oh, by the way, it also can help people perform better. And it lasts not just, for the next decision or performance task, but it can last even up to a week later. And so it's just a really powerful class of techniques that we can bring to bear on a variety of problems.
Yeah. So by like as C.S. Lewis said, like when you put first things first, second things are not suppressed, but they actually increase.
Neat.
So like by putting this the psychological using the psychological distancing, it then ends up that downstream effect having a positive effect on these other elements.
Right. Right.
That's really neat versus
Yeah,
trying to
exactly.
solve them individually.
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's amazing we can just get out of our own head, you know, and we can
Yeah.
do make the world a better place, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. And to me, I think it accesses our creative potential as well.
Right. Right.
Like, for example, if I'm part of a team, any group, like by doing this, by practicing this, I think I bring more value to that.
Right, right, absolutely. Yeah. Because we all know the person, and sometimes we've been the person that's just attached to their own ideas. And they're just going to fight for this idea because it's theirs. And I've seen it play out in high stakes mergers and other situations. And we want to be able to separate the idea from the person. And man, if people can do that themselves, it just makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I just think of like at the home in the home setting,
Yeah.
it can create
Yeah. Goodness.
more peace and harmony because, like you said, when people are attached to their own ideas, they like, no, no, I'm right, you're wrong, like
Yeah.
partners or something.
My goodness. And that's just a recipe for disaster, isn't it? Yeah, that
Yes,
doesn't help anybody.
and you're like, I will fight to the death because it's my idea. I am attached to that.
That's right. That's right. It's my red stapler.
Have you seen my stapler? Goodness, so good, so good. And if people in the audience there, if you've not seen that, go see Office Space.
Yeah, for sure.
So good. Well, all right. So we're coming up on time. What any like closing thoughts? Where can people find more about your work and go get the book, access the book, so they can uh, dive into this and apply it in their own lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is on Amazon, and we just did a signing at Barnes and Noble, so they're great too. And so distancing, how great leaders reframe to make better decisions. It's with myself and David Marquet. I'm Michael Gillespie, and I'm an associate professor of psychology at University of South Florida. I'm easily findable. People could reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, check out the book. I've been doing this for over 20 years. This is the most useful tool I've come across to help people in organizations, which is why I went into this line of work.
Wow, that's saying something. That this is the most useful tool.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I really do. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on and sharing these insights. I'm excited myself to practice this and to apply this. I
Great.
think people go like, "Yeah, I can totally use this."
Yeah, absolutely. And let me if you try it and you have stories, let me know. I'm always looking for more stories.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so they should and include myself send you some fun stories.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yep.
All right.
Well, thanks for having me, Chad.
Thank you for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and if you liked it, please share with a friend on social media. That goes a long way to promoting this podcast so I can continue to interview and share these conversations with fascinating people. You can follow me on social media, Chad Stoloff, and visit my website, chadstoloff.wordpress.com, for more information. I'd love it if you would leave a review to support the podcast. Thanks so much. Until next time.